Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Top 5. This week I'm going to be talking about Bloodborne weaponry because since the DLC is coming out soon, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of go over which weapons I think are best, because we're getting a whole range of new trick weapons and firearms to play with once the old Hunters is, dropped for us. But Bloodborne's weapons as a whole are all designed to be 2 weapons or more, because the nature of the hunt means that you have to be light on your feet and you have to be adaptable when a situation arises. This means that every single weapon in this game is needed to be more than one weapon. Unlike in Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2, where you've got a long sword that is a long sword, in Bloodborne that long sword will transform into a great sword maybe. And this really does change up PvP and how players approach any combat situation, because you have to sit there and think, which form of the weapon do I need to use now, or which attack pattern is best when I'm backstepping, and so on and so forth. But some weapons are obviously better than others. That's always the way that these things go in games, and there's no way to balance them all properly. And after spending a fair few hundred hours or more on Bloodborne, I think I can concisely say that I do have a definite list.
Number 5.
The Hunter Axe is a fantastic weapon that doubles as a halberd, a massive polearm that you can flick enemies with incredible range, and a heavy one-handed great axe. Despite being one of the first 3 weapons you can actually get in Bloodborne, I stubbornly maintain that it is one of the best. Mainly because the transforming attacks, stepping from or into any backstep movements, are absolutely phenomenal to deal with, because it chains from hitting the axe downwards to flicking into the polearm and then prodding someone, which doesn't sound very dangerous, but trust me, it really is. Also, the two-handed power attack is possibly the most overpowered thing in the game, especially when you've got a buff on it, or you know where the critical spot is. It means you can't get backstabs on people, but you do get 2 chain hits, because the first one will knock them back and the second one will knock them down, and that will always happen. And since you can't guard in this game, it's pretty lethal if you get caught by either of them. Gascoigne makes use of it. When you fight him, he makes use of a Hunter Axe, slightly different from yours, but it serves the same purpose in that it is really, really powerful.
Number 4.
Darius Wheel is a weapon that a lot of players in Bloodborne probably haven't either heard of or even used, and I think that is a terrible, terrible situation to be in. You unlock it by killing Martyr Lagarius at the top of Cainhurst Castle, and if you don't understand anything that I just said, please go look it up, because you need to use this weapon. It's predominantly a strength weapon that utilises heavy smashing attacks and can clear rooms by you basically becoming a human whirlwind armed to the teeth with a steel-plated wheel. What more do you want? Aside from its awesome stopping power, it's also got a magic buff that does up the damage very, very little. However, what's really key about this weapon is the fact that the strength scaling is S when you get it to plus 10. An S scaling when you only require 20 strength to wield it in the first place is something to be feared, alongside a power attack that basically crushes people into the earth when charged correctly. In its trick form, the wheels expand and you basically grind them on top of someone's skull. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Although it does reduce your health at 5% per second, so if you don't have a large health pool, you're going to have a bad time. But, offset, it's pretty fun to crush people.
Number 3.
Despite preferring strength weapons through the majority of my playthroughs and style throughout any Souls game and Bloodborne, the Blades of Mercy were a weapon that I came across in my second playthrough, and I fell in love with it as a result. They're fast, they're very hard hitting, and if you use them with the old hunter bone, you're basically an unstoppable ninja. The weapons are predominantly designed to make use of the fact that quick stepping into or out of a dodge makes you a god, essentially. And the strong attacks aren't exactly something that knock people back, but everything about these blades is designed to make you quicker. And it's like using an assassin's blade. You know, it'll move quickly. It doesn't do as much damage as, say, the Kirk Hammer does, but you can just zip round people, and it really, really confuses other players, or even bosses, when you're moving at that speed with a weapon with that kind of deadly intent. Like I was saying, if you combine it with the old hunter bone, someone really is finished, because you're teleporting into an attack, hitting, teleporting away from them, maybe even round them, and then doing the same thing again. And if you get it into a rhythm, you can combo the attacks, and that really is just, it's phenomenal to deal with. And the trick form is better. There's no other way of saying it. The trick form of the weapon, where it's 2 blades rather than 1, is just better. Sorry. Than the 1. Simply because 2 is better than 1. And the moveset is wholly unique.
Number 2.
The Burial Blade can only be unlocked through any form of a New Game Plus, which means that you can't get your hands on it unless you've completed the game. You also can't get it if you don't defeat, spoilers, Gehrman. If you don't kill Gehrman, then you don't get the blade. And if you don't get the blade, you'll be very sad, because you get access to a massive curved greatsword that turns into the Grim Reaper's scythe. And an animation for a weapon has never, in any game, left me doing it for the next 5 minutes, just going ka-chink. It is just, it's ridiculously fun to use, because it has the longest reach out of any weapon in the game. Like, you don't understand this unless you've used it yourself. The strong attack on the trick form, where it's in the scythe, has enough range to clip multiple enemies, knock them back, and then chain into another transformation attack. It has a fantastic array of attacks that can be strung to meet any situation. But more than anything, you're using a scythe.
Number 1.
The best weapon in Bloodborne, without a doubt, in my mind, has to be the Kirk Hammer. And I completely understand if you disagree with that, because it's unwieldy, it's bulky, and it's a bit bland. That being said, it was the first weapon that I became attached to as a weapon, because in Bloodborne you have to really learn your movesets and make sure that you understand how a weapon functions in a combat situation. It was the first weapon that I really kind of clicked with. Like I said, I've always enjoyed using strength weapons or strength-based characters, so this was right up my alley, because it had a high strength bonus, and it had a big great hammer. So, you know, smashing stuff and slashing stuff at the same time, nice combination. Especially when the strong attack on the trick form was strong enough to stagger beasts that were like a story tall. That kind of power is infectious. And you can even utilize that in something like PvP. Not easily, but it can be done. But even when you're against another player, you can use the straight sword to hack someone to pieces, because it's just that quick. And I can totally respect the juxtaposition they've got going on. And that's why I like the weapon. It's that mix between something that's incredibly bulky and something that's incredibly quick at the same time, because it has 2 uses. And I love that. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. This has been my top 5 weapons in Bloodborne before the DLC. And I'll see you all later.